All right, everybody, and welcome to the AI OER Institute 2026 Saturday session, breakout number 3. This is on the ethical accountability track, and the presentation is called Pattern Generation is Not Creativity. And we are joined by Joni Gutierrez, who is working at TCC as the accessibility technology specialist.
Yep.
And he also is co-chair of the ELC AI task force with myself for the Washington Community and Technical Colleges. We've been co-chairs for about a year and a half, and we're working on trying to spread the message of how to use AI effectively and ethically. Joni and I came up with something called the 8 Essential Principles, which he is going to be talking about in this session, I imagine. I'm not going to take too much more of his time. I'm going to pass it over to Joni. Joni, please help us to end this institute on a strong note.
All right. Okay. So we were having some technical difficulties earlier. So let me just go. Can you see my screen? Can everybody see
We
my?
can see, and it looks like we're looking at your slides. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Oh no, not this one. Sorry.
I'm going to say that.
This is for
Different
next.
titles.
That's for next Tuesday. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
I can see it.
All right. And is my audio good and everything?
I can hear you.
All right. So hello everyone. So normally I'd like to see the participants, but for some reason we can't see. I can only see my screen right now. But yeah, I feel your presence. I know there are around 23 people here. Thank you for coming. I mean, this is the last session, and I don't like giving guarantees, but I'm gonna give you a guarantee that if you love movies, if you love cinema, if you love media, if you love creativity, and you do care about uh, what creativity, the importance of creativity in the future that we're building, you're gonna enjoy this. Yep, so we're just gonna start. So where's this coming from? I taught film before any of this existed. I was a tenured professor at the University of the Philippines Film Institute. I taught there for more than a decade. And this was pre-AI when authorship was never in question because there was no other way to make a shot exist, right? So now it's different, right? Uh, and I moved here in 2018, and ever since then, I saw how AI started. And even when I was doing my doctoral studies in Hong Kong from 2013 to 2018, I was already hearing about AI, and I was like, "What are they talking about?" I had so many friends, even dorm mates, who were specializing in AI, and they were in the other fields like physics and mathematics. And now I know why they did that. It's because of computer vision is a thing, and now we're seeing it applied. Uh, my research was about the cinematic realism. So I've been doing cinematic realism for more than a decade as well. And in my dissertation, I examined film practice rather than theory alone. The classroom now, so next fall, actually, I'm going to teach at Bellevue College Continuing Education, and I'm going to start teaching AI filmmaking. When I started with Bellevue, I was doing general Gen AI, and now there's a demand, and we're just filling the demand. I mean, I didn't even know that there was an actual demand right now, but there is. And I also lead various AI video workshops across Washington State. And my work, I published a book this year. It's called AI Cinematic Realism, and it's a critical framework for AI-generated cinema built around human creativity, coherence, intention, and accountable authorship. And now that I'm going back to teaching, for the last couple of years, I've been working with Tacoma Community College, helping them with Title II compliance. But now I think I'm slowly moving towards going back to the academe, and now that I'm going back to teaching, I realize that the questions that I asked film students then for more than a decade teaching a film, uh, those questions, whose story is this, from what vantage, what stays out of the frame, and what questions I still ask now. The tools have changed. Now we have AI, but the questions did not. And I'm just going to show you AI cinematic realism. So I'm not here to sell my book. So this actually is, so I actually made a condensed version of the book. So this is a very comprehensive introduction to it. And the reason why I shared my my slides is that you can always come back to this. The entire slide deck is CC BY, and you can always use any of these. You can always adapt any of these. But that's AI cinematic realism. All right. So when we're thinking about the students, right, the film students right now, we need to think about the landscape. AI cinema is not hypothetical, and a couple of years ago, this was not the case. A couple of years ago, we were not even sure if this was going to happen, but now it's been happening. You might have heard of Dreams of Violets. So it's a 75-minute AI generated docudrama, first fully AI generated feature length live action film accepted into an official program of a major film festival. So in the last just couple months and in the next months, we're going to see a lot of milestones with AI cinema. I watched this Dreams of Violets, and Where the Robots Grow is an 88-minute animated feature film created extensively with generative AI and released publicly as a full-length film. This was in 2024. There are many AI film festivals now. An example is the Busan International Film Festival, and it's run by a more traditional institution that runs the BIFF, which entries from Korea, France, Poland, different parts of the world, and they also operate their own AI film school. And AI now, cinema is now a circuit of its own. So there's this website where you can see all of the ongoing AI film festivals, and of course, we also have the major ones here. Just to give you a quick look, Dreams of Violets is this one. It was screened at Tribeca, but it's not available for viewing. I watched it, and at first, when I saw docudrama, there is a documentary. You know, with documentaries, we associate it with something that happened in front of a camera. So when I watched it, like, okay, so they were dealing more into the emotional aspect of it, and I was thinking, so this film was the budget was just $2,000, and there was no way to make this film in such a short time. You know, if it's traditional cinema, it's gonna cost a lot more. It's gonna need a lot of more, you know, operational, more logistics. But with this one, it basically is a documentary, but it's based on their memory of what happened during those 2 days. Where the Robots Grow. This is available on YouTube. You don't need to pay.
You're gonna die.
Anyway, can you hear the sound? Just to be, did you hear? Did you hear the sound? No.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear the sound.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And then Busan AI Film Festival. So this one. So there's a film festival that's gonna happen this year. All right, and they've been doing this for 3 years now. This is already the third one. Yeah, and they actually contacted me a couple days ago, and the reason why they contacted me is because they wanted me to be a speaker there, because they're looking for all of the many film festivals right now are looking for a framework, because the traditional framework for cinematic realism and even film theory in general do not necessarily apply to AI. And with AI cinematic realism, that's what I've been trying to do, and I'm going to speak here. So if you're going to attend the Busan International AI Film Festival, I'm going to be there. And a circuit. So this is just these are all the AI film festivals, even the minor ones. Omni, this is a big one. This is in Australia. It's the world's leading AI film festival. They also contacted me, and they want to formalize a criteria for judging, and they want to use AI cinematic realism for that, or at least to inform it. Yeah. Australia, Runway. This is one of those AI tools, and they have their own AI film festival. So if you're thinking of the perspective of the student, you know, if you're a film student, you're gonna look into the industry, you're gonna look into the film festivals. You want to know where you can screen your films, and you know where you can actually start your career. So this is the another major film festival. Okay, so now you probably heard about the Oscars, right? So for Oscars 2026, there were a lot of talk, and this is where the industry drew its line. It's not the tool, is at the authorship. And that's that's the main thing that we're going to talk about in this talk, is really the authorship, right? So the Academy's test, they said that using AI is neither going to help you, neither going to help your film be nominated, or it's not going to harm your film be nominated. But they're saying that the test is the degree to which a human was at the heart of the creative authorship. What is now ineligible? Roles that demonstrably performed by consenting humans are ineligible for acting awards. So the Oscars is saying that you might have an AI actor there, but they are not eligible to be nominated, or of course to win an award. So we're not gonna, in Oscars 2027, we're not gonna have any AI actor win any award. So they drew the line there. And another thing is screenplays must be human authored to qualify for the writing categories. Right, so you can use AI to help you organize your thought or even brainstorm, but you must be able to demonstrate that it's the human that made all of the choices in the screenplay. So what the Academy can actually require now, starting 2027, if questions arise about generative AI use, the Academy can request additional information about how it was used and the extent of human authorship. And this actually has an impact on how we train our students. And I've seen in the previous presentations, and with the practice of many educators, we are training our students to be accountable about how they use AI, because they should be able to defend it. And as far as the Academy is concerned, they should be able to defend their human creative authorship there. What the Academy did not do, Gen AI was not banned. Its use does not automatically help or harm a film's chances of nomination. The Academy and its branches judge the achievement with the human creative authorship behind it. So one of the industry's most traditional institutions, the Academy, landed where the session lands. The tool is permitted and authorship is non-negotiable. So this is also where this current session is going to land too. The field is asking for not just films. We have all of these film festival AI films being submitted and being shown, but now they look for frameworks. These festivals screen and award work, but they're also looking for explicit criteria, to use how to judge AI films. They want to build a critical discourse around authorship, ethics, craft, and human intent. As I mentioned earlier, the BIAFF in Korea, their theme is AI as film art. So now they're thinking, is there a way to look at AI films as also a work of art? And this is going to be the conversation in December, where I'm going to be a part of. The Token AI Film Festival in the US, it awards the best ethicists alongside best world building and best previs, and it requires filmmakers to disclose how AI was and was not used in the film. So this is what we're trained. We should be accountable. We should actually remember how we're using AI, and we should be able to talk about it and defend our human creativity. This Disrupt AI Film Festival in Australia, built on the theme humans and their tools, framing AI as a creative collaborator rather than replacement for filmmakers. So we're at that stage where we're actually talking about philosophy, accountability. The field is young, and still developing its criteria. That is a conversation educators should be part of, and the one we are trained for. All right, so that's very important. All right, and film schools are moving too. Film education is not waiting this out. The University of Hong Kong has its first master's degree focused on AI filmmaking and media, combining traditional filmmaking with Gen AI. In Barcelona, they have this master's degree explicitly built around AI, cinematic language, storytelling, ethics, and generative projects. So we do have film students right now that actually focus on AI, and the degrees are available. In the UK, there's a screen-focused MA exploring Gen AI for creatives across film, games, animation, media production. Georgia Tech, they have a bachelor's pathway explicitly pairing AI with film and media studies. So I gave you a link to these slides, and you can always click later on when you have time. The point is, film education is not treating AI cinema as a passing tool. It is building degree pathways around it. Or maybe you want to have a look, especially for our people who are going to watch the recording and they might not have access to the slides. So this is University of Hong Kong, they have a School of Future Media. So these are, I actually know these people. I did my PhD in Hong Kong, so I actually know these people. And this is in Barcelona. So we have this. The UK. Scores, large scores. Georgia Tech. This is very interesting because it's a bachelor's degree. So they have this. Okay. All right. All right. Part 1. So now we're really going into educational part of it. There are 2 polls, and we've seen these 2 polls in the previous presentations as well, even in the keynotes, definitely. So the enthusiasts, they celebrate AI for removing friction, accelerating production, democratizing polished input, and they frame it as a gain in efficiency, right? And the skeptics, AI threatens authentic assessment, erodes original thinking, breaks the link between student and work, and they frame the loss as integrity. So these are very familiar, but the framings are understandable, but neither gets to the deeper problem. Polar opposites can be useful, but they might not be helpful, in looking at the nuances of any particular thing. So we might have to look at the nuances, right? And one way to do that is really to understand, how we're dealing with AI. We're all new to this, and we're slowly trying to understand how we're dealing with Gen AI. So when students outsource the generative act, they may produce something that looks like creative work, the assessment, without ever having done the cognitive and experiential labor that makes creativity meaningful. Unlike pre AI, as a film teacher, when I would have my student, when a student shows me their film, I would know that it it would have taken them some cognitive and experiential labor to do that, because I know the process is physical, and you can't just have a prompt or series of prompts to have a film, but now it's different. So now, if the students outsource the generative act, the output exists, but the authorship does not. This is not a question about cheating. There are more nuances to it, but this is a question about authorship. So we're going back to authorship as well. So that's the running thread of this session. There are 2 different operations, pattern generation and human creativity. This is AI. AI recombines statistical regularities drawn from vast quantities of human-produced work. So the way that these AI tools learned about the patterns is that they were just exposed to all kinds of films. Like Gemini, for example, was exposed to all of the videos on YouTube, right? And there are a lot of videos everywhere. So AI learned about, was exposed to this. They looked at the patterns, and now you can ask it to generate something based on how it learned from that process. But what it does is real, useful, and often fluent. Yeah. But what it cannot do is originate, right? It knows the patterns, but it cannot originate. Human creativity is something else. It emerges from memory, emotion, identity, cultural position, and specific weight of lived experience. Remember when you have fresh, when I would have like freshmen students who are film majors. This is what they have, right? They're gonna gain that fluency. That's what one of the things that you're gonna learn in film school is to learn all of these patterns, right? AI knows the patterns because of its exposure, but for a film student, we're gonna curate films experiences so that they're gonna know the patterns. But with human creativity, it's not just a recombination, it's a transformation of experience into meaning. So with human creativity, you have that lived experience, and when you learn a particular art form, your lived experience, your identity, your cultural position should come through, and that's what real creativity is. It's not just pattern generation. What the model has never done, it has no experience to draw on. It does not know what it feels like to grow up speaking 2 languages at home. It has never lost someone. It has never been the only person in the room who looked the way it does. It has never wanted something badly enough to stay up all night getting it right. Human creativity emerges from exactly these places. So with all of these, right? If you're studying literature, if you're studying journalism, if you're studying any field, all of these would would come through when you do any creative act. When AI performs the act, the artifact may still appear, but the learning, the student disappear from the process. And as educators, this is the one that we should protect. We should make sure that the student does not disappear. We're not just focusing on the artifact because we know that could easily be made without any influence from lived experience. Ronald mentioned earlier that this actually comes from our work with the 8 essential principles. So this is actually principle 3 of the 8 essential principles. The student must remain the originating intelligence behind the work, the one whose identity, experience, and judgment shape what gets made and why. Technology enters as an instrument in service of these ideas and not as their source. So these are 8 principles. There are 2 parts. The first 4 are the reducible human core, and then the last 4 are the operational commitments. So this was heavily informed by our experience co-chairing the AI task force of the ELC work group, in the state. And this is openly licensed, so you're free to adopt. And I just wanted to show you this. So 8 principles. So right now we're just looking at the 3rd principles, driven by human creativity and lived experience, but there are 8 more and they are interconnected. What film education reveals. All right, so the framework, AI cinematic realism, it's a body of work on what cinematic truth means in an era where images no longer require cameras, sets, actors, or physical light. Later, when we have time, I'm actually going to show you an AI tool. I'm going to show you Google Flow, and you're going to see exactly how films are made there. If we have time, I know we're not really focusing on the tools right now, but if you have time, I'm going to show you. The practical problem, generative tools became capable of visually impressive moving images fast. So we know that. What became clear, visual impressiveness is not the same as cinematic meaning. Something was missing. So in the last couple of years, we've been seeing, cinematic images, but for some reason, they are visually appealing, but they don't mean anything, and it's one way that, it's one indication of AI slop. If it doesn't mean anything, it looks good, it looks fluent, but doesn't mean anything. The transfer, what was missing is exactly what goes missing from student work when AI leads, right? So yeah, even if it's a film student who makes it, if the student does not use their lived experience, their human creativity there, the end result is going to be a fluent video, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't have a stake in our shared experience. So with AI cinematic realism, so this is just the tagline that I use there. Realism is coherence, coherence is intention, intention is answerable. There's 3 strata for AI cinematic realism. The perceptual, is the image coherent at the level of the frame? So we're talking about optical coherence, temporal stability, embodied motion, material behavior. So you would see it, whenever there would be a new model released by any of the major AI companies, you would see the physics simulation. I'm sure you're familiar with that. They compare how ChatGPT would do it, how Claude would do it, the physics simulation, and that also applies definitely for AI video and for realist films. They should be to be successful perceptually. They should adhere to how we expect materials to behave. Environmental, does the world hold together across time and space? So we're talking about spatial logic, causality, continuity, ecological and social-cultural plausibility. AI video creation tools are getting really good at the first one, the perceptual. Environmental, they're catching up a little bit. It's only in the last few months where we can actually reliably maintain the character across different scenes, right? So the environmental is catching up, but we're getting fluent now with that one. But what's really important, that's why it's a different colors, is the authorial, the third strata. And it asks the question, is there human intention behind this work, right? So we're looking at the point of view, narrative causality, stylistic identity, ethical awareness, and interpretive depth. When we're watching any film, you know, that traditional or AI, we're still looking for all of these. And at this point, many AI videos are failing a little bit with the authorial stratum, you know, and that's why we want to have frameworks, you know, to really drive the point forward that the authorial stratum is very important. The first two are increasingly within reach of the machine. The third is not, and this is the one that matters for education. What the model cannot generate on its own is aboutness. So I call it aboutness, a coherent point of view, a reason the world exists, and an ethical and interpretive stake at what is being shown. This is the threshold at which the tool ends and the author must begin. So in film education, yeah, you can use AI. You know, you can use AI for previs. You know, you can use AI to plan your film and then shoot it. You know, live action, or if you want, you know, since there is an actual circuit for it already, you can make an AI film as your final output, but the aboutness should be there. A student prompts a short film about loss. What arrives may be visually arresting, moody lighting, slow motion, melancholic music. But if the student has not made the decisions that gave it meaning, we're gonna ask who's lost, you know, from whose perspective, what remains unsaid, what does the film image mean? These cannot be answered by a prompt. They require a person with a perspective. So it's the same question every discipline. So this is applicable across the different disciplines. For example, an argument, you know, you ask who decided what this claims and what it concedes. For example, for an essay, right? Of an analysis, who chose which evidence mattered and why. So these are the things that you do not just leave to the machine. You should be accountable to it for it. You should know the process. You should be able to tell me, you know, how you arrived at that, or what choices you made. A design, who decided what problems this solves and for whom. A care plan, who weighed this patient's circumstances against the protocol. A performance, who decided what this interpretation is trying to say. A build, who decided which trade-offs were acceptable here. If the answer is not clear to the student, the assignment has not done what the assignments are for. So assessment is a big thing right now in education in the age of AI. So one way that we're dealing with this is to make them accountable, hold them accountable for their choices, and they should be able to articulate it. You know, AI is there to help them out, but they should be able to articulate the decisions that they made and why. Intentional seeing, I'm just gonna. All right. So we have an activity. So read this AI short across the 3 strata. So when you watch it, this is a short AI film. So while you're watching it, look at the perceptual strata. What does your eye catch? Light, motion, hands, texture, edges. You know, is there anything weird about it? Environmental, does the world hold together? So we're looking at space, objects, continuity, cause and effect. But I want you to focus on the authorial stratum. What is this about? Whose point of view? What is this for? So ask those questions while you're watching it. And while you're watching it or right after watching it, please put your answers in the chat. And please spend your time on stratum 3. It is the one that the machine cannot do for you. And there's an optional reading here that you can watch. So I can't see you right now, but I'm just gonna play
Joni, is it the 16-second one?
this one.
Yeah, is the video that you want us to watch, the Jailbird experimental AI documentary? Are you
Yep.
are you gonna play it?
Yep, I'm gonna play it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were gonna have us watch it on our own. So you're just gonna share your screen and play the video there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ron, for being
Continue on.
proactive. Can you see it? Can you see it? You can see the screen,
I
right?
can see, and I heard you play it for a second, so I can hear it.
Perfect. All right, enjoy. It's just 3 minutes 39 seconds. Oh.
request to make it full screen, Joni?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Massa. Tangi.
All right. Let me. So this is so the filmmaker was the one who uploaded it. And so the process, it's all about the process, and then yeah, and I bet you weren't expecting in the end they showed the sketches and let me stop sharing for now. Oh, now I can see everyone finally. All right. So in the end, they showed the sketches, and it was part of the process because with AI video creation tools, you can actually use your sketches, together with your prompt to inform what's going to be, to inform the video. So the filmmaker showed the sketches. All right. So I stopped screen sharing so I can see your responses. So are there responses or are you still taking it in? I know,
Can
I
you
know.
can you put up again what we're supposed to be
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
out for?
yeah. All right, all right.
Unless somebody else had those up there.
All right. So these are the three strata: perceptual, environmental. What does your eye catch? Do the perceptually. So do the uh, materials behave? Do they obey the laws of physics? Is there an extra finger in the hands, right? Environmental, does the world hold together? Space, objects, continuity, cause and effect. But I wanted you to focus on the authorial. So what is this about? Whose point of view? What is it for? Well, for me, so when I watch this, like, okay, I don't see anything. There's no red flag with the perceptual and environmental. So it's an example where AI is doing better with the first two strata. You know, it still doesn't look, I mean, it doesn't look like it's film, but at the same time, it's uh, acceptable. But what really matters is the authorial. So what is this about? Whose point of view? What is it for? Right? Does it come through the film when you watch it? Does it have a sense of aboutness? Right? So that's the third strata that we should be focusing on, and as educators, we should that's the thing that we should actually uh, we should actually zero in and make sure that our students see the value in the authorial. You should be able to give it a sense of aboutness. It should be work that is produced by a human being. And because that's what art is all about, right? All right. So if there's no, I know it's a lot to take. So if there are no response right now, we're just gonna continue, and we're
Oh no, the
What?
chat's blowing up, Joni. So
Oh,
maybe you
nice.
might want to
All righty, all right. Thank you.
stop the share and
All right.
maybe address some of these.
How long did it take him to make that? So it wasn't explicitly mentioned, but uh, it's not gonna be months, right? It wasn't clear as far as whose view. It was mixed because I'm guessing it was made by AI. Yeah, yeah. So definitely, our uh, our notions influence what we see, right? So if we assume that it's made by AI and there's no human being that was involved in making that film, so we assume that there's no point of view there, right? Yeah, but for this one, there's a human being that attached their name with it. So I made this. My name is here, and yeah, interesting POV from the bird's perspective. I could put myself in the chicken's experience, right? And that's one of the things that art does, especially cinematic arts. It could put you into a perspective, and it does that in a visual manner, right? A very, very human manner. But this is the point of view of a chicken, right? So that's it's just the power of cinema in general that still comes through in this film. I thought it was metaphorical and turned out not to be. Okay, yeah, yeah. I was actually expecting more. I could see the perspective. I could see what they're trying to get at. But yeah, I wanted more. But unless it was intentional design by a human, sort of a surprise, and made viewers wait till the narrative text in the end. Okay, yeah. If you hadn't told me it was AI, I would not have known. Yeah, so they're really getting better at that. So this film was made in 2025, and now 2026. It's they're doing a lot better in the perceptual and environmental aspect of it. Yeah, felt a little bit charismatic film. Flow the camera work and montage editing meant to deliberately obfuscate the images and draw the viewer in, so potentially not meeting the shadow of purpose. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So here, since we know that there's a human being who made this, we're actually thinking that they made these choices, and we can actually name these choices because we know something about about filmmaking, about cinema in general.
I wanted to hop onto that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what's something that I also wanted to say is
yeah.
that like this work is created by somebody who knows film. They know
Mhm.
like the angles, the shots, like the composition and all of that thing. And they had to learn that.
Yeah,
I'm imagining they went to like film school or some
yeah,
sort of place where there was a instructor that was telling them, this is how frames need to be composed and all that kind of stuff. And so they're taking that knowledge that they got from the class and then they're using it to create this kind of work. And I feel like that can be broadened out to everything in related to education where you're still going, you still have to go to school, you still have to go to college or university to learn these things so that you have to have that like foundation so that you can create something like this in AI. So for the argument of the people that, schools are going away,
Yeah.
mentors are going away. I feel like those miss the mark a bit in that we still need to go somewhere for, students need to go someplace to learn these things.
For sure. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's the point. Actually, we we students still need to learn all of these stuff, and then that's gonna pay off when they actually use AI, because that's gonna make their filmmaking precise, right? All right. So we're gonna hop back into the presentation. Well, thank you. That's very insightful.
And we got about 10 minutes left,
I
Joni,
know.
just
Yep.
to let you know.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah. I think. Okay, so naming what you just did. So perceptual vocabulary. So assuming that you were really looking for errors. So you're probably looking for the possible physics hallucination, texture collapse, and especially in the start of AI video, we had a lot of spatial drift, lighting inconsistency. But now it's getting better with this stratum, the perceptual, environmental vocabulary. Continuity to break, scale drift, causal gap, cultural pastiche. Sometimes they would mix different cultural elements, but now it's getting a little better. The authority vocabulary, so you were really focusing on this one, as you should. You might have seen no point of view, unmotivated style, borrowed voice, absent stake, interpretive flatness, default vantage. If you just let the machine do all of these choices for you, it's gonna give you a default vantage, and that default vantage is it's just the normal vantage, which does not really mean anything, or unexamined likeness. This is the ethical part of it. If you have a likeness there that potentially matches another human being, or does not give a good representation of the world at large, that could be a problem with authorial stratum. Precise vocabulary is the difference between taste and craft. Taste registers an effect. Craft can name it and produce in its purpose. So in film education, it gives you that vocabulary, it gives you that technical know-how. So you can actually use either traditional or AI in your filmmaking, so you can be precise. In the classroom, generation is a loop, not a transaction. So you plan first, decide your message, your audience, the shots before touching the tool. You just don't go to the tool and say, "Oh, make me this film." No, you should do the planning first, just like in traditional cinema. And then you do the prompt. You state the rules. The subject, action, setting, camera, light, and this is where your education is gonna pay off. Because you know these rules. And then generate, expect misses. First outputs are drafts, never deliverables. So there's a lot of iteration here. Evaluate, this is the authorial part of it. Read it across the 3 strata, the skill you just practiced, and correct it. Restore the discipline, then regenerate, and then repeat. So there's a loop until you get exactly what you intended. Evaluation sends you back to prompting far more than forward to publishing. This is the system working, not failing. Correction is not fixing the prompt, it is restoring the discipline, your artistic discipline, which reframes iteration as a craft rather than failure, and what stops students settling at close enough. The prompt is not just instruction, it is a set of authorial constraints. So this is something that we actually make our film students really know. When you're prompting, you're basically giving it your authorial constraints. It's you. For example, this one, a wide shot of sunlit community college library, and then you decide who appears, students of diverse ages. It's a representation decision made deliberately. Where it lives, community college library, grounds it in a real world, not stock generic. The rules, you give it, you give it, the light comes only from the left, the camera will not cross the aisle. And then vague prompts hand every meaning bearing decision to the models defaults. So if you have vague prompts, you just go into the models defaults and it's not going to mean anything. The student directs, the tool drives. In the classroom, the student holds both the decisions and the keyboard. They have to articulate it. Student names the decision. This could be a classroom activity. You can do it at the same time. The student names the decision out loud. They can say, "I'm changing the light because I want her isolated, the character." And then the student runs it. Everybody sees it, and then they can test different variables. You don't put 5 variables, because you cannot see the change. So you choose one variable, see its effect, and then the class reads it across the 3 strata. They evaluate as a class, did it change to do what the student said it would do? And then student accounts for it. Keep, revise, or discard, defend which. And this is the accessible moment, that decision, that articulation of that decision. The generated clip is not the artifact being assessed, the chain of decisions is. This is assessment in action. Make the decisions visible and unavoidable. The machine did it is never an alibi. It's the person who prompts, curates. These are questions for the student. What is it about? So this is when you're assessing the student. What is this about? The student should be able to account for not what it depicts, but what is it for? What it argues? Why this choice and not another? Why every framing excludes an alternative? Name the one that you rejected. What did you leave out and why? Omission is an authorial act. Students rarely notice they made one. What does the final version mean? This is what what you intended to mean? And these are the questions that you can't just ask AI. They don't have the lived experience to answer these. Or maybe they can try, but it's not going to be convincing. And would you put your name, again, the authorial, as a student, would you put your name on it? The gut check that catches what the others miss. So these are the three questions that you build into the assignment. Could this mislead? Because AI is getting very good, and it might mislead. So definitely, that's where disclosure really matters. Does accuracy matter here? If it has a factual claim, process a place of procedure, statistic, make sure to verify it against something trustworthy. This is the ethical part of it for sure. And who is being depicted? Representation is very important in traditional cinema and AI cinema. Are there people in the frame? Bias and representation decisions should be able to make those and should be able to defend their choices. Disclosure is a scholarly practice, not a confession. 3 moves to make the student available: anchor in lived experience, require process documentation, and design for feedback-driven revision. Build in receiving a response and deciding what to do about it. Judgment, identity, willingness to defend and consider your own choices. This is a deeply human act, and this is hard to outsource. So not about banning AI, but making sure that the student's presence is not negotiable. Right. Tools are getting better, right? What has to be done is really the authorship, right? Standing behind it afterwards. The point is what happens inside the student in the process of making something that is genuinely theirs. And when they leave film school, it's not really about the artifacts that they made, but about the processes that they underwent while they were there. And that's what they're gonna bring in their lives after film school. Pattern generation is not creativity. It will never be. The assignments we design, the ones that demand memory, identity, perspective, and lived experience, are not relics of a pre-AI pedagogy. These are the clearest expression of what education has always been for, not the production of artifacts, but the formation of people who know how to think, create, and take responsibility for what they put into the world. And this is not just for filmmakers, but this is for everyone. This is us teaching our students, and this is us thinking about the future that we want to build. That is the work AI must serve, and this is ours as educators to protect. And these are the open educational tools that are available, and just listing them there. And when you have time, if you want to click on them, and these are all CC BY, and we only have 1 minute left.
All right, you're able to fit it all in. Are there any links that you can drop in the chat for us just so that we can have them fresh?
Oh, for sure, yeah. All right, hang on.
And I suppose we have time for one question if there is anybody in here that can ask one quickly. Otherwise, we can actually, you know what? My bell just went off that it's 1 p.m. I think we all had a lot of good information to think about and talk about today and yesterday at the AI OER Institute. Can we get a quick round of reactions here for Joni? Because I think that was great. A great examination, especially in this day and age where, a lot of people are worried about intellectual property with AI. And so I like that using the tool in a creative way. I think that's great. So thank you, Joni.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much. I felt your presence, even though I couldn't see you earlier.
All right, so I'm just going to wrap up now by saying thank you to everybody else who stayed with us here till 1. I see you. I appreciate you all registering to come to the event and taking the time, especially on a Saturday here, to stick with us to the end. So if anybody needs, I'm going to drop the link to the LibGuide one more time. Right now, I have all of the recordings and resources from day 1. I'm going to be working after this, like right now, on trying to get those resources up for you because I don't like when I have to wait a month or 2 to get the recordings and the resources. So I'm just trying to get those up for y'all. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your Saturday, and I hope to see y'all in cyberspace if I don't see you in person.
Thank you, everyone.